All right, it's 7 o'clock. If you'll stand, we want to have a moment of silence for Stanley Smotherman, who passed away, was our longtime road superintendent, and will be led in prayer by Adam Thomas.
Dear Lord God, thank you for this day, the blessings you have given us. I thank you for letting us gather here together, Lord, peaceably. Thank you for that blessing, Lord, that so many other people don't have. I pray, Lord, you will be with us as commissioners and other elected representatives, that our actions, our words, and deeds, Lord, will bring glory to you. I pray, Lord, that no matter what, our faith is found in you above all other things. In Jesus' name, amen.
If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting will now officially be opened by the Sheriff Austin Sweet.
Hear ye, the Bedford County Board of Commissioners is now in session. The Honorable Mayor, Chad Graham, is presiding.
Thank you. Be seated. All right, so first item will be roll call from our County Clerk, Donna Thomas.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Boutwell.
Here.
Commissioner Boyette.
Here.
Commissioner Brothers. Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
Commissioner Farrer.
Here.
Commissioner Hooker.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Maddox.
Here.
Commissioner Neely.
Here.
Commissioner Pinson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Thomas. Commissioner Mark Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Vick.
Here.
Commissioner Yockey.
Here.
18 present, 0 absent.
All right, so first comes up public comment. I know there's at least 3 individuals that signed up saying they wanted to speak. It has to be germane to the agenda, meaning it's on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. I'm going to go in the order, if I can read it correctly, but if we left anybody off, you'll raise your hand after these 3 speak, and we'll give you the same opportunity to speak. Again, it's just got to be an item that's on the agenda tonight. So the first name I had was Joseph, is it Bird? All right, sir, if you come up to the podium there, and you need to press and hold the button while you speak. If you let off, it'll cut off.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Tonight I want to address the wastewater initiative that we're being voted on tonight. I'd like to ask some questions and get some clarification about it. The wastewater is being voted on in this committee tonight without being presented to the people of the county that you are representing. One, will the county build a wastewater facility, and if so, will the county owner's representative be overseeing these projects? And if these are multi-million-dollar projects, that will make him, once again, the highest-paid employee of the county. And if the county is not building its own wastewater facility, what are the benefits of its doing this, other than the ability to charge for permits and taking away from people's property and infringing on their rights? If approved, will the county run sewer lines to all the residents of the county and then force them to get said sewer lines as they were given no ability to vote on or any process of? This county administration has a history of not informing or allowing the citizens that voted them in office and whom you are supposed to be representing the wishes of and the ability to vote on issues that would increase the property taxes as well as other taxes, thus putting a greater financial strain on the voters and their families.
All right. I would clarify that for tonight, what would be before the body is whether or not to ask the state legislature to create a private act that would create an entity, and that's all that action tonight would do. If you support wanting to have some form of oversight or say in how wastewater is managed here in the county, that would be a yes vote tonight. If you don't think that we should be managing or oversight in that, then no vote would be appropriate, of course, in relation to that. I would disagree that you didn't have the opportunity to comment about it, as you just got to exercise that. Outside of those questions about whether you would have pipes and whether they would build a facility, those are interesting questions, but they're not something that could be answered tonight, because this is just the first step in identifying and creating the entity possibly. Okay. Next, we have, I believe it's Paul Engel. Did I pronounce it correct? Again, same idea, 3 minutes. Hold the button while you speak, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Both the resolution for the private act and the act itself is in the packet have language to state that wastewater systems are vital to long-term growth and development and needed for Bedford County. Yet they provide no evidence to prove that either statement is actually true. Or are we to believe it's true simply because it got put in some document? Why should Bedford County get into the wastewater business when no actual need for it has been shown in the legislation? Now, I've been told this is simply legislation to regulate wastewater. However, the act itself says in item 2 that the planning, acquisition, operating, acquiring, financing wastewater systems, that's not merely regulation. I've also heard that the private act described is merely asking permission to discuss a wastewater authority. The resolution states it's a resolution to authorize and seek the passage of a private act by the Tennessee General Assembly to create the Bedford County Wastewater Authority. The private act is for permission to create the authority. This is not simply a private act to discuss the authorization or to discuss the concept. It is a private act to seek authorization to create a wastewater authority. Are you acting like Nancy Pelosi and telling us we need to pass this legislation to see what's in it? Shouldn't the public necessity be proven by more than just some words on a piece of paper before we ask for permission to create an authority with such power? Item 7 contains one of the scariest items I've ever seen regarding this, giving an unelected authority the power of eminent domain. The power to take or even to take control of private property is not only one of the most frightful powers of government, it is easily the most destructive of liberty. This power has a history of being abused, and for example, I point you to Kelo versus City of New London. To vest such power in an unelected board with no apparent oversight is antithetical to due process and good governance. Couple such power with item 5's vast grant of authority, item 9's unrestricted power to borrow, and item 10's demand for liberal interpretation and supremacy power, and this act is ripe for overreach, abuse, and infringement of the rights of the people of Bedford County. In summary, submitting even the resolution for a private act is premature. It is rushed, reckless, and dangerous. I'm disappointed that such an incomplete and insufficient resolution, so devoid of due process, even made it out of the Rules and Legislation Committee, much less without a single dissenting vote. This does not place the committee in a very good light. If nothing else, this body should at least require proof that the act is actually necessary and proper before it is submitted to the state for a private act. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next person on the list is James Sloan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's a little cold in here. Sorry, I didn't come prepared with a bigger coat or thicker coat. I guess the questions I got, just for clarification, are there seems to be a need, and that's what you're here to discuss. What is the outlook? Is this for a 30-year outlook for a need for this wastewater management? I read the acreage had already been looked into. You're going to use Tennessee South, I believe. Maybe I'm looking too far back. Someone posted something about, who's going to do the paperwork if this is passed and looked into. But I just have the questions I guess I'm trying to ask and get clear. Sorry, I've been studying for cardiovascular course to teach tomorrow in the morning. But what is the real need for it? If there is a need, how many homes would it service? And what are your concerns? Not just ours, what are your concerns if we were to implement this? And how would it affect the community as a whole? Not just the county or the communities around it, but just outside of the county and its perimeters, but chance.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Again, I would just stipulate as far as what's on the agenda tonight would be whether or not to create or ask the state to allow us to create the entity. If there's any particular commissioner that wants to make a comment regarding that, though, I'll be happy to call on you. Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Did I miss anybody in the audience that wanted to speak on doesn't have to be this issue, any other particular issue? Okay, then we're moving on. The next item on the agenda is elections and confirmations, and that would be the election of the notaries for the March 2025.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry, yes? Oop.
we did have somebody that raised their hand.
Oh, I didn't see you, I'm sorry. Stand up. Oh, please come forward. If you state your name for us, and again, push the button.
Stephen Jordan. Okay, I have just a few questions. The wastewater issue is one issue that's important to all the Bedford County residents. But as that gentleman was talking about the eminent domain or the take that it's pretty much referred to in common word, I just feel like that it's sort of an attack on the civil liberties of the residents of Bedford County to not be able to get more time to understand what all these types of rules and this law that you're trying to pass through the committee, and also that there's a committee that's going to be in charge of this domain. And one of the concerns I have as a Bedford County resident is, are that particular group of individuals that are appointed to do this going to look at other areas? Is that going to become a power that some residents would feel like that's a threat, that they could lose their property if these big home developers want to come in from other places? And of course, Shelbyville has a lot of opportunity because of a lot of the land that's undeveloped here. And, I just think that a lot of residents don't get to voice their concerns or even know what's going on other than this that's going on here tonight. There's not really a whole lot of information in the paper about this subject, about the waste treatment plant. I think that, residents should be more well-informed as to what's going on with this whole thing. And I just feel like that the eminent domain, we've seen so many examples that the government has taken land before in other states throughout the country, that there's been a lot of controversial implications and a lot of outcome that people aren't happy with. I understand, county roads, easement, and things that, are necessary and needed, and of course, we're all for that. But as a concerned citizen of Bedford County, I don't just speak for myself, I speak for all residents, and I just think that there needs to be more transparency, and there's too many gray areas, and that's my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, is there any comment that one of the commissioners would want to make? Certainly, at whatever point, if you want to ask legal for any information, he certainly will provide that to you. Okay. Now, did I miss, Commissioner Yaki?
I'd like John T. to address the eminent domain and how it's common in things like what we're doing tonight.
Is a right that this body has, any governmental body, and most utilities have that as well. It has to be for a public purpose. It cannot be for a private enterprise, and of course it is for condemnation, but it probably would exist regardless of whether it's in the private act or not. But it's something that's been around forever. Otherwise, you wouldn't have roadways, etc. But it cannot be for a private enterprise. It has to be for a public purpose. I've seen a few, and maybe not in recent years, but I was involved in one where we proved that the purpose was not for the public, but it was a prominent citizen was wanting something done and talked the county or the city into doing it, and it was defeated in court. That's the threshold for it.
Commissioner Keith Davis.
John T., while we're at it, if it's the verbiage that's at issue with this eminent domain, is that something that can be taken out? And what would it do if it were taken out?
You could delete it. I frankly can't anticipate, but then again, there's a lot of things I can't anticipate, that there would be any eminent domain in play with this. The authorities that have been developed around the state can control regulations, and usually they're much tighter than the state regulations, and primarily their own step systems. I mean, that's basically what they govern. Now, some of the larger ones extend more than that, but in Bedford County, I think that's where it would be. But I don't know why there would be any eminent domain in play. I can't anticipate every possibility, but if there were a developer that wanted a step system, the authority certainly would not set up that step system and condemn any property for that developer. It would be up to him to go out and acquire whatever was necessary for that, but the authority would then step in with an overlay of the rules and regulations, and that would be contracted out to somebody that probably would be a little more strict than the state.
I understand there's a couple schools that have this step system, correct? It's already in play. Was there any eminent domain that was in force during those times?
To my knowledge, all of those were on the property that the Bedford County, I think Cascade and is it Community? And those were on property that was acquired by the county previously, not taken. And the only other step system that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there's some others, is the condominium development across from Uncle Nearest, which has been there for probably 20 years. And I didn't even realize that happened, but the developer that developed the condominiums acquired enough property that was soil suitable to put the step system in. And I think that's been regulated by the state all this time, and I don't know that they've had any problem. Pretty sure the county hasn't had any problem with theirs. But I wouldn't anticipate that, but if you want to delete that language, yeah, send it up any way you want to send it up.
Commissioner Boutwell, you hit your button, please.
Could this be viewed as an opportunity for the county to protect property rights, and by the fact that somebody may put in an inadequate step system and it bleeds over into other properties, and would this protect my property rights?
Well, we've certainly heard that argument. Chris White's here from planning, if you want to have him speak on it. But with subdivisions, that's been some of the concern, is what happens if the system fails? Who is the oversight about how many can be on the system and those things? The state sets some minimum standards, but my understanding is if you create an entity and you have a board and all the things that this body, not the mayor's office, would have to decide, then you can put some fail-safes in there that would exceed the minimum standards of the state. Do you agree with that? Are y'all comfortable with him making just a quick comment regarding, I said quick comment regarding that? Thank you.
Yeah, essentially the genesis of this whole thing is all about managing growth. It's about growth. It's a growth management tool for us because, last couple of years, we had a couple of controversial rezoning situations, and commissioners talk to me all the time. How can we control growth? How can we do that? How can we stop this? How can we do this? And when it comes to wastewater, we rely on TDEC from the state to approve these systems, and then we accept whatever they approve. So what this does, it allows you guys to create an entity. I mean, it would be created by you, and you guys would appoint the board members to it, and you guys would develop a set of standards, minimum standards. They can't be less than the state by law. They have to be greater than what the state publishes. So there's no way it would be less. So you automatically would then have a tool that you currently do not have. I don't think anybody has envisioned the county running a sewer system. That's not what this was designed. This is not what the idea came from. And as far as the eminent domain, just like John T. said, I don't see any reason that this particular entity would be involved in that. I think that the state explicitly gives public utility companies that right, and that's why that language is in this, I think, this resolution, because that resolution is just a copy of somebody else's resolution, I guess, probably with a few changes, just not to recreate the wheel. But if you took the language out of it, I think the state law still explicitly gives you, the county, that right, and it still gives public utilities that right explicitly. So even if you take it out, I think it's still, I mean, that'd be a question to the attorney, but again, nobody wants to build a sewer system. Nobody wants to put in pipes anywhere, anything like that. We just want to create a set of standards. Now, that said, the issue of eminent domain for a sewer system somewhere, the county has a rule already in place that we don't allow easements for septic or for sewer. So to be able to, so basically the lot has to stand on its own. So we're not gonna, I don't think even this board wouldn't do away with that particular rule. So we would have to, if the county built a step system on a school site, it would be completely 100% on the school site. It's not gonna be on somebody else's property a half a mile away. I don't think that's not envisioned.
Thank you. Commissioner Yaki.
While Chris is standing there, just want to make sure my thinking's right. And we've been looking at this probably for the last 4 or 5 years as these subdivisions have come in and these other kinds of septic systems are coming with them and the fear of them failing. So I want to make sure so that it's heard, this has nothing to do with an individual's person's septic tank. True. This has nothing to do with building a wastewater facility. This has nothing to do with running septic lines here, there, and yon. This is strictly evolved to address the issues with these subdivisions that are coming in by outside developers and the septic systems that they're putting in. True?
That's true, and again, you guys will set these standards. You guys will study this for probably a year, I don't know, something like that. The other thing I was going to tell you is I did reach out to TDEC last week, and they've got a program, an educational program that they take on the road, and they're willing to bring it here and offer classes for you guys to be able to learn a lot more. But, you know, they studied step systems pretty intently last year. Spent a whole year studying all across the state. And so they've got a lot of information that's available for you guys, and I've already in the works to get you guys in front of TDEC and get that class in so that you can learn a lot more about it. But yeah, again, the genesis of this has nothing to do with having our own sewer system. This gives you, this is a way for you to have a tool you currently do not have, a growth management tool. That's what it is.
And would you agree that would assist the Planning Commission as you guys deal with and try to figure out the best practices for subdivisions or clusters of homes, or however we would say that?
That's correct. And just like Commissioner Yaki said earlier, we've been studying this for a long time now, and we, you know, it's been studied also by admin, and so you guys have gotten to a point where I think you felt comfortable with it. So this is where we are today.
Commissioner Neely.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback off of what Linda's talking about. We're vaguely mentioned subdivisions or whatever, which can already be built in the county. It's 1 house per acre. It seems to me like this resolution is going to open the door for PUDs and higher density housing, because those would be the people who would use those step systems because they can't get perk sites for each of those individual sites. And so what they want to do is use step systems that'll maximize their profit to come in here and leave us with whatever's left, which brings me around to the authority when it says the purpose is planning, acquisition, I don't know what we'd be acquiring, operating, and financing of a wastewater system. I need more information before I can get behind this. And I know this tonight, everybody keeps saying, oh, this is only to get the permission to talk about it. That doesn't work for me. I need these answers now before I decide if we're going to send this, because it's send it off and then it comes back and you said it'd take, you know, we're going to talk about it a year. Let's talk about it now. And what exactly are we driving to? What exactly is going to be the end result?
Can you hear me? My answer to that is the end result is what you make it. Because you guys then will have an opportunity to study it. You'll have an opportunity to set it, appoint a board. You guys will have an opportunity to create a set of standards. It all comes from you. Now, as far as PUDs go, we already have regulations for a PUD, if somebody wants to do a PUD. And it's up to you to decide whether or not we actually approve a PUD. So it's up to you. We've had the regulations for years. As far as these step systems go, if it goes to the planning commission and it's not a rezoning, it's just a standard subdivision, they're going to be a minimum 1 acre lots. And of course, if you're a developer and you want to try to maximize the lot yield on a given piece of property, and you have the soils for a step system, well, of course you want to build a step system because that's what you want to do. You want to maximize your lot yield and make more profit. That's what developers do. That's what business people do. So nothing wrong with that. But again, if you created this and you create it in the way that I've envisioned it, you'll create it in a way that makes it tougher to do that. Not easier, but tougher, because that's all you can do. You can't be less than what the state does. You have to create a set of rules. If you create a set of rules greater than that, greater than what the state's system is. So there's really nothing to talk about
Currently,
right now.
we don't have any say in whether you can have a step system or not, correct? The state of Tennessee does that?
That's correct. The state
So we have no
approves
say
it.
currently.
We accept it. That's how it works.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hooker.
Yeah, just a point of order. We are way out of order on this agenda. We're talking
Commissioner.
about an item that's 5 things away, so I think we need to get back on our agenda, and we can talk about this when it comes to it.
Okay, are y'all done with discussion? Okay, great. All right, next item on the agenda is election of notaries for the March 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well then the first resolution is Resolution 2512, and it's a resolution to authorize a grant application for the Tennessee Homes Development Agency Home Grant Fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, next one is Resolution 2513, and this is a resolution requesting that the 114th session of the Tennessee General Assembly to allocate 1/2 of the real estate transfer tax to the counties. This is circulating on behalf of the County Mayors Association as well as the County Commissioners Association and the County Association, Tennessee Association, asking the state to return back to the counties, not just Bedford, 1/2 of the real estate transfer tax. There was a time when apparently part of it did come to the counties. It was drawn back to the state years ago, and everyone is of the opinion, at least at the level of leaderships across the state, that, and Commissioner or Pro Temp Pat Marsh is carrying a bill that would currently allow those funds to come back to the counties. I believe Bedford's number was estimated to be about $900,000 a year that would return to Bedford if we get it. So this is just a support resolution that they ask commissions across the state to lend support to as they ask the state legislators to redirect those funds back down to the counties where they're collected.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so now the one that was back on discussion. So Resolution 2514, that's the resolution to authorize to seek the passage of a private act by the Tennessee General Assembly to create the Bedford County Wastewater Authority.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve it. So now we're open for discussion. Commissioner Maddox.
I appreciate the discussion earlier, but just to dive in a little more. So over the short period of time that we've had to try to learn more about this and try to socialize it with the constituents, I've been able to compile some questions and also come up with a few of my own. So to really speak to this, though, you've got to dissect it, so y'all bear with me. I'm going to start with some constituent questions because I feel it's most important that their voices are heard. So here are some questions. I'm not looking for answers. Just let me roll these out. This is something that I believe should have been discussed way before tonight. But some of those questions are: what other counties have exactly what we're proposing to enact, and how has it worked for them? Do we have a detailed explanation why this is currently needed? Doesn't the state already regulate the wastewater by requiring permits and inspection of septic systems? Can the county say explicitly what is intended? And what would the county do if allowed to form a wastewater authority in Bedford County? The state already has wastewater controls in place. What has been affected negatively over the last 20 years to bring that to this forefront? Regarding the language, manage wastewater systems, how would that be executed? There are already codes in place regarding septic systems, so I'm assuming it goes beyond that, but how far? And what would be the potential expense to the taxpayers? May we have an explicit description of areas that would possibly serve eventually down the road for the county wastewater authority? What specific services would be provided, and where would the treatment plant be located if ever installed? The citizens definitely need to have detailed explanations of what's needed. More would be, what would be the purpose of needing the eminent domain clause added? What is an example of an issue that could be faced with that would be justified in enforcing it? So a little bit more to digest here. Y'all hang with me. Let's take a look at the resolution more in detail. Item 2 states it's further declared that the planning, acquisition, operating, and financing of wastewater systems by the said authority is hereby declared to be public governmental purpose and matter of public necessity. Well, this seems to state that Bedford County will own, finance, operate wastewater system. So is Bedford County getting into the wastewater business? Yes or no? Eventually, maybe, I don't know. How many residents in Bedford County currently need or would need the wastewater services? Something obviously to determine. As opposed to using private septic systems as we do today, is this intended to regulate or provide guidance or management for PUDs or other developments possibly? And what would this cost the county? Maybe not now, but maybe later. Item 4 states the creating of government entities shall have the power to appoint a board of commissions of the authority. So regarding the board, do the people of Bedford County really want to place that much power on a board of, quite frankly, bureaucrats? The Bedford County, the board shall then create necessary bylaws, to appoint any officers, and conduct meetings as necessary to carry out the purpose of the authority. So again, are we really looking to give lawmaking and eminent domain power to an unelected board? Will these folks be paid? Furthermore, the ability to appoint officers without oversight is in fact dangerous. Let's go to item 5. Item 5, the authority shall have the powers to necessary to accomplish the purpose of this act, excluding the power to levy and collect taxes as forth in Section 2. Again, this is placing a lot of authority in a group of unelected people, including the power to shape real estate by approval and denial of wastewater access. And regarding Section 2, there is no Section 2, unless they meant Item 2, which may be a little bit worse because it creates a general framework that, without any specifics, then claims to delegate them power to do anything to fulfill the open mandate. This means there are a few defined limits on powers of the board. Let's go to item 6. Item 6, you can read it, but it says the authority shall have the jurisdiction over and have the exclusive right to provide wastewater service within all areas of the county that are not governed by any other utility district and as of the effective date of the act. The authority shall have the exclusive right to provide wastewater service as county municipal boundaries are expanded by annexation or by other means. So again, why is Bedford County getting into the wastewater business? Why should Bedford County residents pay to finance a wastewater system that could predominantly, most likely be used by developments? Why shouldn't the developers pay for their own wastewater solution? So item 7, let's keep going. Item 7, the authority to condemn in its own name any land, right inland, easements and or right-of-way, which in judgment of the board are necessary for carry out the purposes for which the authority is created. So again, I ask the question, do the citizens of Bedford County really want to give eminent domain authority to an unelected board? This would be also a little bit ripe for abuse, I believe, down the road, as it would possibly leave a little room to collude possibly with some developers, maybe, maybe not. We'd hope not, right? Item 9, let's look at that. Power is not restricted. Speak also to the authority the power to bar without approval or restriction. So item 9 also states no proceeding, notice, or approval shall be required with respect to the issuance of any bonds, refunding bonds, or notes of authority by any instrument as security, therefore, as provided in this act, any law of the contrary notwithstanding. But I just don't see any provisions for how to handle those things in this proposed act. How would that be handled? Let's lastly look at item 10. So item 10, which specifies liberal construction. Someone needs to definitely elaborate on this one. Item 10 states the provisions of this act shall be liberally construed to affect the purposes thereof, insofar as the provisions of this act may be inconsistent with the provisions of any other law. The provisions of this act shall be controlling. So why should this act supersede all other acts? Okay, so here's, at the end of the day, these are just a few questions of research that I've done of folks in my district, and also I've received calls from folks around this county, not just in my district. Why so many questions? This is where it's going to get sticky. In my humble opinion, this is just another example of legislation that's being rammed through at the 11th hour without proper discussion. There seems to be a handful of politicians that continue to think that they know more than the people of this county that they serve. And some of them will tell you that they have been working on this for years. But I'm going to tell you that I've known about this for 21 days. I know that we're going to grow. I know that we've got to manage that growth. But this resolution and the way that it's pushed through is not the answer. If y'all want to work together, let's work together. Let's hold workshops. Let's invite the public. Let's all get together. Let's figure this thing out. But again, I found out about this 21 days ago. So don't you think that we need time to discuss these types of things and get the feedback from the folks that we serve? I appreciate your time.
Okay. Any other comment? Commissioner Anderson.
I've got one just real quick. And some of us in this room got some heartburn about a board, and I've heard it from my constituents about forming a board, and they bring up that 231 board and the way things went there. We're not going to hash that out tonight, but that is a fear that folks have about us coming up with a board like that 231 board where it's all in secret, can't tell you, and that's a concern that I've heard from a lot of people. But I'm going to not get into that. What I want to ask about step systems is this. If they fail, who can work on them, folks? I know a lot of plumbers, and I'm telling you right now, everyone tells me they don't know how to fix them. Now, y'all tell me who can fix them, and then who's going to pay for it? Are we liable when we allow these things to go in that they break? Is the county and their taxpayers somehow liable for it? Is the homeowner? I mean, if something were to go bad wrong on something big, if it's your septic tank, you pay somebody to come pump it. If it's 400 houses, 300 houses, and all of them back up, who's paying for that?
Okay. Other comments? Do you want, Commissioner Bella.
Well, I think, for me, I'm reading the purpose of the authority. And then what I hear from general discussion, it's more to regulate the systems as opposed to what the language says in Section 2. To me, I read one thing and I hear another thing, is what I'm trying to say.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with what Commissioner Anderson just said. I agree with what Commissioner Maddox said. If this plan, and we had to vote on it tonight, to put this very plan in place with the provisions we have here, I would not vote for it. This is not a plan. This is just a structure that allows us to form a plan. This plan's not going to be rushed through. It's not going to be handled by a few inside politicians. If the General Assembly gives us permission to discuss putting this together, this is a long, drawn-out plan that will involve lots of education. I don't know everything about it. Nobody else does. Let's go get the experts. Let's bring in TDEC. Let's bring in ECD. Let's bring in, Commissioner Anderson said, let's talk to these people who operate STEP system. Let's educate ourselves. Let's find out about it, and let's make a determination. And if some of these clauses in this bare bones proposal here don't don't work, we put them out and we put something else in. This is not the final plan. We are not tonight here discussing putting in a plan. The only thing we're doing tonight is asking the General Assembly for permission so that we can start the process. We can't start a process to put this together without the direct permission from the General Assembly. All we're trying to do, it's like getting a driver's license. When my son was 15, he wanted to take driver's ed course. He wanted to practice driving. He knew he was going to get a driver's license, but he had to get the stuff in place. We want to go and learn as much as we can, get the public input, make sure everything we do, everyone is fully transparent so that everybody has a chance over a period of time, not a week, not a month, not 3. This may take 9 months to a year for us to get through. But we got to go to the General Assembly first. The General Assembly is going to be out of session in 60 days at the maximum or minimum. We've got to get their permission for us to even start. So all we are doing tonight is asking for permission from the General Assembly that we can start this discussion. Everything else is on the table.
Commissioner Epperson, did you want to speak?
Yes, and I agree. The way it's written here, I wouldn't vote for it either. I did have same people, a lot of people call, and their concerns was same as many others, the eminent domain, the liberal construction. Why do we need the bonds written in there if we weren't going to be building a full-blown sewer solid waste plant? But also, I had another lawyer look over it that's not associated or has anything to do with the county, and they were concerned that, the way it's written here, that it would be a lot of money if we were getting into this business. And one of their questions was, you know, where would our customer base come from? So I assumed that that would be new construction, the subdivisions. So that was just some of the questions that they had.
Commissioner Hooker?
Yeah, I just had a simple question. So for this to go through tonight, it would require 2/3, is that correct?
That is correct. You take 2/3. So 12 yeses. Based on currently on the floor, the motion the second is to approve it. So
All right,
unless
thank
somebody
you.
amends that. Commissioner Neely?
To Commissioner Vick's point, by Linda's own admission, and probably she's had some conversation with constituent because they have placed that on social media, that this has been in discussion, I guess, in planning for about 4 years. Why do we as a commission not have that same opportunity to have a great deal of discussion so that we know what we're doing instead of ramming this through? As Commissioner Boutwell said, we're hearing conflicting information. This document goes one direction, but what we're actually hearing is something else. I'm having a real struggle with that. I want to know that I know, and I have read for Williamson County and Rutherford counties and all these others, and at the end of the day, what it appears happens through this is there's large subdivisions that go on these step systems. There is a sewer on site. These people will get a sewer bill. That's what's going to pay for maintenance later on. Is that the direction we're driving? Because if so, that means we're going to create some type of department that's going to have employees, you know, or we're just doing oversight. The whole thing is very confusing, and I don't think any of us has had a real opportunity to think about it. And this whole, well, we've got to talk to the legislature in order to have permission to discuss. No, we don't. We need to discuss now if it means we wait till next season.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
For those of you that made the motion and seconded it, are you willing to delete paragraph 7 out of this resolution? If I understood the county attorney correctly, we don't have to have that in there.
I don't have a problem on the second deleting that.
For those of you in the listening audience, that's eminent domain.
You're saying you
don't
you
either.
accept that?
Yes.
Okay. So now that's the motion. Was there a question to the county attorney? Did you?
I do not see that that would affect that to delete it because I can't anticipate that ever happening anyway.
So Commissioner Maddox, oh, I'm sorry. Give
I
me-
mean, we don't want this authority doing that, so I'd recommend we delete that.
Okay, they accepted that, so that now is part of the motion, but we still got discussion going on, Commissioner Maddox.
Yes, sir, thank you. I can appreciate the commissioner's challenge for that portion. But here's it is, y'all. We have a piece of papers, a resolution in front of us that we all agree has many holes in it. And I'll tell you that from a business world perspective, if we were to have walked in a boardroom with this paperwork and asked the CEO to approve what we have and just say, hey, you just need to approve it and we'll work out all the details later, we would be laughed out of the room. So why do we disrespect the people of this county when we have pieces of legislation like this and we admit that it's not solid, but yet we want to push it through and we'll worry about it later? I'm absolutely embarrassed about that. I'm not for it. And to Commissioner Johnson's point, I appreciate what he brought up. I respect that highly. But we've got to remember that there will be a board of unelected officials that can just absolutely change the rules of the game once they get in. So this was pushed through in the 11th hour. It's not a good thing right now, and there you have it.
I'll make one comment about the board. Whether we approve this today or somewhere down the line, take, for example, the city of Shelbyville. They have the Power and Water Sewer Board that runs the service here in town. And the city council, as the best I can determine, really don't involve themselves with their decisions, of what to do. So I think it would be on a similar vein. I guess the only question here is the county going to be in the water sewer business, or is the county just going to be providing oversight and regulation of?
You can structure that, if you choose to move forward when it comes back, you can structure exactly the authority of that board. I think what I'm hearing and was anticipating was in the oversight. And I do know that, that I received a call from a pretty significant developer saying, you need to be careful who you hire. He'd heard that we had been in conversation with the consolidated group in Murfreesboro. He said their standards are much higher than the state standards, and developers don't want that. I think the real issue for this body is when you see a flurry of construction, and I'm against any kind of regulation almost always, but the building codes and so forth, without them, it allows somebody like me to go out and start building houses and turning a quick profit and hitting the road. So many of them go back to South Carolina and North Carolina, and then the houses start falling. Those are the constituents that I think we need to be protecting, and this is a possibility. And it may be that there's never another step system that ever gets approved in Bedford County, but this way we have some say-so, and right now it's totally with the state. And this developer was telling me that the consolidated over there had worked through a lot of issues over the last so many years, and I don't know how many, and that every time there was a problem, their standards got tightened up. So that's just something you all have got to decide. And if we do nothing, it'll continue like it is, and that may be what you want to do. But if we do this, we have an opportunity to have some extra layer of regulation.
Commissioner Hooker.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So initially, when I heard this at the Rules Committee, the premise of what we were hearing sounded pretty nice, and, that we have a little bit of oversight. We look at these things. We're trying to get ahead of growth. The unfortunate part is then I started reading the document, and unfortunately, pieces of this does not reflect what we heard in the Rules Committee. Specifically, the sentence that has already been said multiple times, but I will point it out again. It's declared that planning, acquisition, operating, and financing of a wastewater system. Well, that's not talking about authority. That's talking about a specific system. And it's talking about acquiring. So what are we acquiring? The second piece is what are we operating? If it's an oversight, we don't have to operate anything, but it's in this document. So the thing is the premise of what we were being told is one thing, and this document is second. And I understand we're asking permission to go to the legislature, but the problem is this document gets attached to the private act. So the thing is this document now becomes part of that private act. And if you remember, most private acts created counties in this state. They create jurisdictional lines, voting lines, all the things in those private acts, which means it is an actual legal legislative document that is now the authority in which this document is attached to. So with that, that's where I have concern. It's not the premise of what this is or the thought process of this, it's the execution of the actual document. I think that we've kind of moved a little faster than we probably should have in this situation. The other thing is yes, the eminent domain is a little scary that it's in this document. The other piece is Bedford County has a history of creating unelected boards and allowing them to supersede what we do as a commission, specifically some recent boards in recent history. And again, we're not here to go over all of that, but the thing is the people that I talk to out in the county, that's what they keep bringing up. So the thing is we as a commission have made poor choices in the past of allowing unelected boards to supersede some of the things that happen here at the commission. Also, they keep this commission in the dark on some things. So we just got to be very careful when we go to move documents up to, quote, a private act that now becomes the permanent record of the state, that it is a perfect document. If I would have, just like Commissioner Maddox said, if I would have brought my boss this document and said, hey, we'll figure it out later, I wouldn't have made it very far. So again, we've got to be very careful when we're doing these things that we think through. And again, if we've been talking about this for 4 years, I've been a commissioner for almost 2, and this is the first time I'm hearing about it, we probably need to start including other commissioners in on these conversations, and these things will go a little bit better.
Commissioner Boyette.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the state legislature is usually in session until at least early April, is that right?
I would think so. It moves a little bit depending on how fast their bills get hung up or not hung up.
It seems like we still have lots of questions that need answered. Would there be any way to defer this until March and maybe kind of form like a, get everyone together and have a special study session? I know the city kind of has like a study session sometimes. Could we do that as a county commission and maybe have everyone get together prior to that meeting in March?
Of course you can. You can defer it, you can table it, you can act on it. So with 10 votes you can, but now right now the motion on the floor is to approve it without the eminent domain. Now if you want to amend it to be deferred and have a special study session or whatever, you stipulate that, and if they agree to that, then that would become the main motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to defer to have a special study session with full commission prior to the March commission meeting.
Prior to the March commission meeting, will you accept that? Okay, and would the second accept that? Okay, so now the motion on the floor is to defer it. It's not to table it, it's to defer it for 1 month, but have a study session prior to the next commission meeting. Is everybody,
Mr. Chairman, point of clarification on that, please, sir. When you say a study session, who is going to conduct the study session? When are we going to have it? And who's going to be there? What are the questions that are going to be asked? Because all we're doing here is asking for permission. So if we do, as Commissioner Hooker said, then we're going to have to write this perfect instrument to get it up there when we don't even have a plan. The 90% of this plan is not in place. So I'm just curious as to how we're going to do a study session, and I'm willing to do that, but just help me out with what the ideas and questions are going to be.
Okay, so hold on tight for a second, because you did agree to the change of the motion. So I'll come back to you. What say you in regards to what you want that study session to look like since you put it forward?
Well, I think we might need to get maybe a utility board of some sort, maybe have you head it up. You're not heading it up? He shook his head on that
I'll
one.
help you get what you need. Maybe it might be cleaner to send it back to the Rules Committee. Now, see, the Rules Committee sent it on through the process, which was correct, even though some say they didn't like the way that worked. The process was for it to go, and they sent it forward. So my recommendation would be you send it back to them and let them work through that to figure out what would be your best vessel, and then they could have another session or something prior to the commission. Now, the chairman's right over there to your right. What say you there?
That would be okay. I don't know that it doesn't need to go to courthouse and property.
I mean, I don't mind bringing it back to rules, but I don't see how we leave courthouse and property out of this. I don't think it needs necessarily to go back here. And I do think going and trying to meet the end of the month, I know finance will meet in a couple of weeks. And I think maybe have that study session sometime after it, maybe at 5 or 5:30, maybe out there. I'm just making a suggestion.
Sure, I got you. So
I'd like to go on and do it. I'm like Commissioner Vick, and I think some stuff, but I'm like Commissioner Maddox and Commissioner Hooker. I've got a lot of problems with the verbiage, but all that's been hashed over. But I think we need to pin it down, the time and where, and go and get it done so we can get it on the next thing, so we can get it to the state legislature.
You need to send it somewhere.
Yes.
So where so what's your recommendation? Will you accept his recommendation to send it to the property committee? I think you're chairing that. They can figure all this out to offer some kind of structure at your meeting to then figure out when to have that meeting. Would you agree with that? So is everybody is that acceptable? Does everybody understand what's going to happen here? So this motion to defer it would be to send it to them. They'll talk that night about how they and what date and time you want to do the thing, and then you'll figure it out. So now what do you want to say?
Yeah, I just have a point of order, or really a question about point of order. Because this being an initial, we had an initial motion and a second that required 2/3. I know we have an amendment now. Does this, with the amendment, still require 2/3 to pass?
I believe it was the private act that required the 2/3. So we're no longer, right now you're deferring the action. So we'll defer to the parliamentarian, but I think a simple majority is acceptable.
To get the motion in the shape you want it, this board can do that by a 10-count vote or majority. But to send it up, which is not actually a legal requirement, but the legislators want it now because it has to have 2/3 when it comes down. So whatever you end up with this motion looking like has to have 2/3 to go up, or Pat or any of them won't take it.
Okay, so just clarification, it just requires 10 to go back to deferral, but it requires 2/3 if we wanted to move forward.
That's correct.
From this body.
Mr. Chairman, so the motion, I think, is for 30 days to defer while we do this study, and according to Commissioner Fair, to the courthouse and property, and then they're going to meet sometime prior to our next commission meeting. Is that correct? We'll try. Is a yes or no? Okay.
It's being sent back to the property committee with the expectation that they'll set a meeting. Are we in agreement with that? All right, now Commissioner Neely.
Okay, so what happens if it comes back to courthouse and property and we can't move forward? We can't get the information we need, so it dies in our committee, or what do
No,
we
you
do
study
then?
it a month or defer it or whatever you'd want to do with it there, I guess.
Well, I'd hate for it to come back and everybody thinks that in March we're going to send this back up here to send it to the legislature, because we may not have the information we need to be able to do that.
So do you want him to amend his motion that it would not come back necessarily in March? Because his current motion on the floor says it comes back in March.
He can amend whatever, but I just
No, I'm
don't
asking you
hardly
what
see it
you're
come
asking
back.
him to do. The current motion on the floor is that it will come back here in March. Currently, as it stands, it would come back here in March.
I think we should move it further out.
Do you agree to that?
Well, I think the problem is if you move it out, then it won't go to the legislature.
Understood. So if you don't agree with that, then you don't accept that. And I don't know that there was a second to her. Is there a second to hers to move it beyond March?
Second.
Okay, but you say you don't agree to that. And who was the second to that, to his motion? Was it you? Who was the second to his when it was amended? Y'all got me.
No, we amended, and we had to have the sponsor, not the sponsor, but the primary.
So,
yes.
yeah, so we're back to, so do you agree to that?
Yes, I agree to Mr. Boyette's recommendation and not to the amendment.
Okay, so then it's back to you and not him then. Do you agree to push it past March, or that it comes back here in March? So you don't agree to that. Okay, so now we're going to have a vote on the amendment to go past March. And if that fails, then we're back to the main motion, because the motion on the floor currently is that it would come back here in March. Well, you hadn't voted, but you're in agreement that it was going to go to the property committee, but now the hangup is going past March. Yes, sir?
Yeah, just one last comment. I know that this motion says for it to come back to this body in March. I just don't want to have undue expectations that if we can't get this done fast enough to get enough people there to give you the answers, that we can give you a document back to you with the answers that you may have. That's the question, that's the concerns that I have. We can put a meeting together, we can try to get those people together, but you may not get the answers you need in that short period of time. So I would just be cautious on voting for this deferral, that we may not get enough information back and we're really wasting a vote.
Correct. And you could vote no for this, and it would bring it back to the, right, okay? Yeah, Commissioner Boutwell.
Just want to make one comment. To me, maybe we're overthinking some of this. I think if we were to eliminate the language, planning, acquisition, operating, financing, take those words out and put regulation and oversight, then I think we probably could move forward in March. We would just say that the purpose of this
Are you making a motion to amend that now? Okay.
Statement. I'm just making a statement. No motions.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Thomas, Mark Thomas.
I think that's what we're trying to, if we send it back to Properties Committee, y'all look at the language, get the expertise, people involved, and you can send it back to us in March with a recommendation or unfavorable recommendation, and we'll hash it out again.
Okay, does everybody understand that? Now, that would let the current motion stand as it is, and that is that it's going to go over there. They're going to gather some information, but it's coming back in March with whatever they're able to come up with, and then you may or may not support it on the commission floor in March. Understood. Commissioner Boutwell.
One more thing. You know, if it comes back in March and we can't agree on it, we can defer it to April.
Correct, or vote it down. Commissioner Yaki.
And I'll ask John T. this. This was drafted as a thing to go to the legislature, just like everybody else who has set up a waste authority has done. I mean, it wasn't intended to mean this is exactly what we're going to do. This is just the same proposal that everybody else does, so that when it is approved and it comes back, then we do what we want to do.
The original draft of this was sent down in several forms by the General Counsel for Tennessee Association of Utility Districts. Now, the first two or three were much more voluminous than this and covered a lot more points. This is a pared down version. We can pare it down even greater, and what Squire Boutwell just said may be the answer, is that oversight and regulation is what we're shooting for, so we can gut that language out any way you want to. And the private act will come back pretty much in that form.
And I know Commissioner Hooker's time's pressed, but when this comes back, just have it down to the bare bones of, can we have a private act? And that's about it. Or whatever the legislature minimum that they would have to have in it to approve us for a private act. So if you, I know that's going to cost us some money, but
the other thing that you got to realize is when the private act comes back, everything that's set in motion will have to come back to this body. So all you've got is the authority to start working on it. I would envision that will take much, much, much longer to iron out all the pieces.
Okay, so are we ready to vote? And I am going to try to re-explain what you're voting for. But just give me one last chance to say something before. All right, and let's make sure I'm right when I'm done. So the motion on the floor has been changed over and over, but what you'll be voting yes or no for here in just a second is to defer this basically for 1 month. It's going to come back at the next commission meeting, this actual consideration of the act, but we're going to defer it to the property committee to get some additional information that can come with it when it comes back for March's consideration. That's the stripped down version. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and make a recommendation, either favorable or unfavorable.
Yeah, out of your committee, correct. So, Linda, you are the motion, and Greg, you were the second originally this, so y'all are in agreement with that?
We're in agreement.
Okay. Is there anything else need to be said? Are we okay with all in favor, aye, in this case, since it's just, oh, you want roll call? All right, let's roll call it. So when your name's called, if you vote yes, it's going to send it back to the committee, but it's coming back here next month. No would be you'd be back to deciding what you want to do with it tonight on the floor.
Yes and no. Commissioner Yaki,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mark Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Neely,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooker,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrer, Commissioner Epperson,
Yes.
Commissioner Brothers, Commissioner Boyett,
Yes.
Commissioner Boutwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change your vote? 18 ayes, 0 noes.
Okay, so it will be going back to committee. Next item on the agenda is under Rules and Legislative, approval of the speed limit recommendations for county roads.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. We're open for discussion. Commissioner Tony Smith.
Are we gonna install signs on all these roads? Because a year or so ago, I have speeders on my road. I asked the state trooper to park my driveway. He said it's no speed zone posted and I can't.
The highway superintendent is here. Would you all object to him coming up to state how he would deal with that? I know he can make signs now. So.
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner. The highway department's ruling is, once y'all approve this and it goes into act and we get everything is finalized and done, we will start going out and putting up the speed limit signs on all the roads in the county.
Commissioner Hooker.
Yeah, the question is what period of time will this take from implementation to kind of what you expect to be the finalization? Just because that way the county residents kind of understand that process and how long you think it'll take.
It's a good question you asked there. When I started the sign room there, and we started replacing all the road signs that had been stolen, which was 3/4 of them. We started that in the 1st of November, and next week we should have the entire county covered and all road signs are put on there. So that's took us 3 months. So I'm just going to say, hoping, I'll give you a 90-day to 120-day period probably.
Commissioner
Real
Anderson,
quick.
sure.
My question is, give an explanation of what a collector road is for everybody out there. Just a brief, what is a collector road?
Y'all want to talk tonight, right? Okay. Yeah. Collector roads basically is like Fairfield Pike, Unionville, decent roads. The roads that have major traffic going to areas on the side roads to go to the I guess, less developed areas of the county part, like it right there. So it's the ones that has a high traffic volume on those roads.
Okay, did I miss anybody else wanted to ask anything? Commissioner Biff Farrow.
I do have a question or two. So there's 26 collector roads. Do you think that you'll only need a sign on where it starts and other? That's what I would say, and then you just have 52 signs on those. And is there a rule how far into there that you would put the signs, that it's 45, or that's left up to your discretion?
It's basically up to the discretion of the road superintendent where he puts those in, but what the premise will be, we'll probably put them in somewhere around 100 to 200 feet off of when you turn on the road on both ends of that road. So there'll be 2 signs on the road coming either way you collect on that road.
Okay, so you'll be able to get 2 signs on each road to be enough. Now, the other roads, I think you said there were 419 to be evaluated, and I think a lot of those are in subdivisions and 30 miles. My question is, I don't know if we need signs all through all of our subdivisions or not. Maybe they do, but it looks like to me you need to target where there's problems and then start there and then go on through. Some people don't like signs in their yards and signs here and signs, everywhere, because most people understand in subdivisions the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. It's the same in most city subdivisions. And then those dead-end roads, I've got a problem with putting signs on all of them for sure. You said 189, I counted 197 dead-end roads, and a lot of those dead-end roads aren't but just a fraction of a mile. I mean, it's just a tenth of this and that. We're not planning on putting signs on all those dead-end roads, are we?
Well, to be honest with you, 95% of the calls that we have received about the road speed limits comes from those dead-end roads. And all the dead-end people on just about every single dead-end road we have in the county, I've had at least one call from each one of those roads wanting a sign. And since the speed limits was 45 miles an hour, I talked them out of me coming out and putting up a 45-mile-an-hour speed zone sign, because that opens up the door for somebody to drive on a quarter-mile dead-end road and run 45, 50 miles an hour. So, and to go back to the subdivision will be the last roads that we put signage on, because those roads are, traffic most time is slow in some of those subdivisions. So we'll stay on the roads that has the most traffic, and then we'll work our way through it.
Okay, I just have one other comment, but I do, our highways in rural areas are excellent, but I certainly don't want to take monies that could be spent for asphalt and gravel on our shoulders, on roads. That's very dangerous. You know, I just want that, that's number one priority with me. And then you've done a good job. I see those bush hogs and stuff going up down our county roads and keeping that, the limbs back and the brush cut back where you got, the driver's got a line of sight. You've done a great, excellent job with that. And even better, you've got those road signs up. Now, I'd rather see the road signs up and then do the speed limit signs next, but if you already done that, good. That's great to have those road signs up for public safety and our visitors. The last thing I said, and I said it at the Rules Committee, I don't think slower speed limits will necessarily slow down teenage speeding, but good luck with that. And, I think if it's a persistent problem, then the sheriff's department does need to be notified, and then those guilty drivers need to be fined.
Well, what this does, it helps the sheriff's department, and I'll look back to them. They can't write a ticket for a road that doesn't have a sign on it, because if it doesn't have a sign on it, it's basically classified as 55 miles an hour. So they're getting calls from your constituents wanting them to come out and help with speeding, and with a signage up on the roads, on all roads, if they got somebody that's driving, crazy and very dangerous, then it gives your sheriff's department the tool to where they can send that. And we're not going to spend, we are spending money that could be spent on roads, even though it's a minute part, but we're fixing to get into our budget session up here pretty much. So I would really like for you to try to maybe help me out in budget time to give me a little extra money for that part.
All right, Commissioner Epperson.
I was just going to say what Mark just said. If it's not posted, keep in mind it's 55, and I'm on a dead-end road. I know of another dead-end road in my district that I get calls on all the time. So I'll start telling them to call everybody else about the speed limit when they call me. Because the sheriff's department needs a tool to be able to do something about the people that's speeding up and down the road, or they're just burning tires and then flying up and down the road, and I get those calls a lot.
All right, Commissioner Maddox, did you raise your hand?
I did, Mr. Chairman, but I'm good. It's been spoken to.
Okay, did I miss anybody else? All right, so the motion and second on the floor is to approve the strategy, the structure that he's got in place. So when your name's called, vote for or against.
Commissioner Yaki?
Yes.
Commissioner Vick?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Mark Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Neely?
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hooker?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrer? Commissioner Epperson?
Yes.
Commissioner Brothers? Commissioner Boyette?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change your vote? 18 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, and the next item is under Public Safety Committee, and there was a recommendation to support a letter that would go to the state legislators, encourage them to include the correctional officers in the in-service training supplement that the state provides to other public safety agencies. The bill has not been reassigned, I'll say it like that, but if you guys support this tonight with your roll call or your vote, if you'll come by and sign the actual letter, we'll have it in place where we can send it to them. So this is not a monetary impact to us. This would just simply create some consistency among our public safety officers and servants here in the county.
Motion to approve. Oh.
Second.
Sorry. Now, don't let me steal your thunder. Is there anything you want to say?
No, this, other than this is a state-funded program, so.
Commissioner Hooker.
Yeah, I know some of our legislature watch some of our meetings, and it's really just a statement to them. EMS has been absolutely drastically improved due to the training supplement that we receive. And so I just want them to understand that the boots on the ground in this county for public safety, they need this. This helps pay bills. This helps make sure that they're able to take care of stuff. And so I think this is absolutely something that we need to support and something that the state needs to move forward with. So I just want to send that message to them to make this a priority.
Okay, so we got a motion second on the floor. Any other discussion? Okay, are you okay with all in favor? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you. If you'll come by tonight before you leave, that'd be helpful. Next item, nothing to report under Courthouse and Property tonight, but Financial Management Committee, the quarterly financials should have been in your packet.
Move to approve.
Okay, now we're open for discussion. Okay, hearing none. When your name's called, vote for or against.
Commissioner Yaki?
Yes.
Commissioner Vick?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Mark Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinson? Commissioner Neely?
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hooker?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrer? Commissioner Eberson?
Yes.
Commissioner Brothers? Commissioner Boyett?
Yes.
Commissioner Boutwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change your vote? 18 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, so next item under Financial Management, it reads lease of unimproved school property. This is the other land that had been bought for future school use that they lease out. It's greater than 1 year. I believe it's a 3-year lease, and so it has to come before this body, but it's been before the school board. So we
Motion approved.
All right, motion second. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, we're getting there. All right, I don't think there's anything under other business unless I missed it. Under announcements, I do want to say that the office will be closed on February the 17th for President's Day. That's the standard red letter day for us. Also want to announce we got word today, and Chris is in the house with us. We had asked the governor's office to appoint Chris to his new Duck River, is it conservation team? I'm not sure what they named the group, but he will be representing Bedford, and so that's important. We have the Duck River here in Bedford. It'd be great to have somebody that's very familiar with what we're dealing with right here in our county, and so we're grateful to the governor and their staff for appointing him to be on that committee. So we're excited to see what that will do for us to have some insight and some input going forward. Other announcements, Commissioner Vick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to follow up with that, the Governor's Executive Order 109 created the Duck River Watershed Planning Development Program. If you saw last night, the Governor has appropriated $140 million for the Duck River, and they are going to look at the 289 miles of the Duck River and look at outflows and inflows, and they're going to be looking at the drawdowns and how it's impacted everybody. So it is critical that we have some representation on there, and so we are very fortunate to have our planning director sitting in on that. So kudos to Chris White to step up and do that. My announcement, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I have a very generous contribution from a wonderful person who has given us the opportunity to have our second shoe distribution. If you recall, we had one about 18 months ago. We now have another shoe distribution, and this one will be at Aiken Elementary School, May 2nd. And I want to shout out to Souls for Souls with the shoes, Raise Coca-Cola, the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation, City Current, and myself have put this together. We're going to give a pair of brand new shoes to every kid at Aiken Elementary School. Raise Coca-Cola is going to give them a gift pack that's going to be stuffed with some goodies in there. The Governor's Early Literacy Foundation is going to put 3 books in each of those backpacks. And those of you who attended last year, and I think Commissioner Mark Thomas said it exactly right. He said everybody who was there received a blessing. And I know a number of commissioners were there. We're going to do it on May 2nd. We're looking for volunteers. We've even got a QR code right here where you can volunteer, and it'll go through City Current to have all the volunteers line up. And remember, we have to get you registered because we're in a school, and it's very important we have that. And Dr. Garrett has approved this, and once again, she steps up and does great things for her kids and for this county, and we're very proud of that. So May 2nd, 8 o'clock, get there about 8 o'clock. We'll have some food there for you, and we'll distribute shoes to about 500 kids who really need that help, and a generous contribution from someone in this county, and it's very well appreciated. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Boutwell.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to all the commissioners that signed the sympathy card for my mother-in-law, Ruby Morgan, that recently passed away. We really appreciate that card.
Absolutely, thank you. And Commissioner Mark Thomas.
All right, I'll make this short. Many of you probably saw in the media release that we received a grant from Firehouse Subs that was in the amount of $42,000, and that was a blessing to us. That money does not come through this county legislative body or anybody, finance department. All we do is we fill out the grant, they approve it, we order the equipment, we send them the delivery ticket, and they pay the bill. So, and then a day or two later, we received another state fire marshal grant in the amount of $25,470, which will come through our finance office, and we'll submit the invoices for reimbursement for that. So that's 2 grants that we've received in the past week.
Absolutely. We all know public safety is not cheap, but it's critical that we have it, and fire has done an excellent job staying on the grant model. Just to refresh your memory, it was just a little bit ago, was it $900,000 for air packs that we got through grant?
That's correct.
So they've really stepped up and made some good choices in how they applied and what we were able to use it for, so that goes a long ways. Did I miss anybody else on an announcement, Commissioner
And one
Thomas?
other thing, I know y'all have heard me say this before, but it's not one person that does this. It's a whole team of people, not just firefighters. It's county employees across the county, and some of these people aren't even county employees that help us get these grants. So it takes a whole team to do this.
Absolutely. Did I miss anybody? Are we ready to go home? Ready to adjourn?